Here's a video by Neurotransmissions. Yeah, Neurotransmissions. It's a video on understanding the mind of a mass shooter. It's about how most mass shooters aren't actually mentally ill, at least not in terms of a formal diagnosis, if I could fucking talk. And he has a solution to that, a lot of that, and it's gun control, folks. Yep, that bullshit. So anyways, he gets a lot of stuff right about most mass shooters aren't mentally ill and stuff, but when the video gets to 23:12, as you can see, it gets really bullshitty, so let's go.
Another major issue is the accessibility to firearms. Guns are efficient.
Having access to a tool to protect yourself is not a problem.
And effective weapons for committing mass violence.
Yeah, and they're also effective tools for defending against mass violence. There are over 2 million defensive gun uses in the US every year, some of which don't even require or/slash involve the victim even using the firearm to even wound, let alone deadly force, kill an attacker. Okay, let's keep going. It's gonna complain more about guns, of course.
They result in higher numbers of fatalities compared to other weapons, like knives or even explosives.
Both can be used to cause mass damage. Like the biggest, there's a huge school massacre done way back in the 1920s with dynamite. Also, knives can be used to kill a lot of people too. You know, mass stabbings? Yeah, those are a thing also. They may not be as efficient as guns, but they're still pretty damn efficient. And that's a case for owning a gun for protection against a perpetrator, whether they have another gun of their own or just a knife, or even, if they're just a bare-fisted attacker. So, yeah.
When guns are readily available, committing mass shootings are easier to do.
Okay, let me explain. Yeah, I suppose if guns are easily accessible, it is easier to do a mass shooting. However, though, if guns are easily accessible, it's also easier to defend against a mass shooting. To defend against people that use their guns improperly, to protect yourself. You know, bad people are always going to get guns, whether legally or illegally, so you might as well have them be legal so people can get them easily, so they can defend against bad people who get them legally or illegally, you know?
It's as simple as that. The United States is the country with the most civilian-held firearms. We're less.
Yeah, okay, that's a fact. It's also a good thing to have a lot of guns, whether we're the #1 in the world or not. Don't see a problem with that.
Than 5% of the world's population, but we account for 46% of global civilian gun ownership.
Well, yeah, because gun ownership is big in the US. It's recognized-ish as a right by the US government. It's a right. Let me make this clear. Owning a gun is a right, regardless of any constitution or government or anything really. As long as you're an innocent person, you should be able to own a gun. It's just that the Constitution is a government document which shows to the government that people have a right to bear arms. It doesn't grant the right to bear arms. It just shows to the government that people have the right to bear arms. You know, it's the Bill of Rights. It's on the Bill of Rights, Second Amendment, and it's a listing of rights, not a granting of rights, but a listing of rights. So the Constitution lists the right to bear arms. That's a grant listed, and that is the right for the people to bear arms, not the militia. But anyways, let's go on.
It's estimated that there's 393 million guns in circulation in America.
There's more than that, at least 500 million, but anyways, go on.
That's an average of 1.2 guns per person.
Nice. So everyone in the country can own a gun, at least one gun theoretically. That's nice.
The country with the next highest level of gun ownership is Yemen, with 0.5 guns per person. As of 2019, the US accounts for 73% of mass shootings. Among mass shooters, 77% of them purchased at least some of their guns legally.
Okay, well, I mean, that kind of shows you that background checks don't work to stop mass shootings, okay? A background check only tells you a person's past. That's it. That's even been documented. It doesn't tell you a person's future. I mean, you have all these calls for universal background checks, yet background checks are already essentially universal since they're national. Every licensed gun dealer has to conduct them, and also they don't work. People are still going to do violence with guns, whether legal or not, with whether the guns are legal or not, legally obtained or not, legal to own or not. People are going to do mass shootings. A background check isn't going to do anything really to stop that overall.
And for school shootings, over 80% of mass shooters stole guns from family members.
Okay, so what's gun control gonna do for that? I don't understand.
It's
like you limit what people can own, yet people can still steal what has already been allowed to be owned. I mean, oh, come on.
Clear that if you have reduced access to guns, then mass shootings become less common.
No, that's not clear because gun control is victim disarmament. You disarm innocent people, they can't defend against guilty people. Hello? Kinda obvious. If the good guys are disarmed by the government, the bad guys who aren't disarmed by the government, since they circumvent these laws all the fucking time, still have their guns and still harm people. Australia still has some mass shootings as well as it still has a high crime rate, burglaries, muggings, juggings, homicide. Australia still has that shit despite all the gun control that was conducted in the form of a forced buyback in like 1996 or 1997. As well as all the stupid restrictions they've had since. Gun control isn't going to stop a truly determined person from trying to kill people. It's armed self-defense.
And of course, easy access to guns is the logical outcome of our country's loose gun control laws.
Well, duh, when you don't limit what people can own, they can own a lot. Oh, okay, yeah, that's kind of obvious.
Regardless of your feelings about gun ownership, poor gun control plays a big role here. Unlike...
No, it doesn't. In fact, gun control makes it easier to keep up a mass shooting because your victims are disarmed. A gun-free zone won't stop a criminal, but it'll stop a law-abiding citizen, someone who follows the rules. The rules says gun-free zone, so the rule-abiding people follow it. The rules also says gun-free zone, but the criminals who don't obey the law don't follow it, because that's the rules, and they break the rules. They're a criminal after all.
Car ownership, for example. There's no federal requirements to take a safety exam or get a license or have insurance.
Holy shit, are you kidding me? There is... Wait, is he saying it for cars or guns? Because you definitely need to get a license to use a car, and car insurance is most definitely mandatory.
Despite the dangers of owning a gun, it's something...
Yeah, you're supposed to learn how to use one and when to use it and train to use it well. Okay, yeah, guns are naturally dangerous, but you can minimize the danger by using them safely, by being responsible. And training, hello.
Something that you can buy and legally own the same day.
Some states have waiting periods, like California. You can buy the gun, you can pay for the gun right then and there, but you can't take it home with you right then and there, so... Not a real accurate argument.
Be 18 or older, fill out a form, and pass an instant background check. We can observe the effects of loosened gun control in action. When the federal assault weapons ban went into place in 1994, it limited the sale of certain kinds of weapons and banned high-capacity magazines. Mass shootings fell by 37%.
Actually, sources like the CDC, if my crankpot mouth could talk and form basic coherent words, showed that the assault weapons ban had little to no effect. No discernible effect, no effect, or just very little of an effect of reducing mass shootings. You disarm innocent people, what mass shootings can they even stop? Or what crime can they stop? They're disarmed. They followed the rules to be disarmed. They're disarmed. Criminals didn't follow the rules to be disarmed. They're still armed. They still kill. You have to shoot the shooter to stop them, and to shoot the shooter, you have to have a gun. I get tired of having to explain this.
But when the ban lapsed in 2004, there was...
Thank God. Hughesman's still around, though.
A 183% increase in mass shootings, and a 239% increase in mass shooting deaths.
I bet he's including suicide in there because suicide is responsible for more gun deaths than gun murders in the US. I doubt there's gonna be an increase in mass shootings just because, oh wow, you unbanned all these guns. Okay, yeah, you unbanned all these guns so people can protect themselves better, I guess. I mean, it seems like they could. If you unban the guns, you can protect yourself better from the people that break the rules anyway. Anyways.
Today, even within the country, research shows that higher rates of mass shootings occur in states with more relaxed gun control laws.
Actually, the states that have the highest gun control laws have the most violence. California, New York, Illinois, Oregon. Yeah, not good places to be if you want to protect yourself with a gun because they don't allow that shit, at least not by much.
Again, the easier access you have to guns, the easier it is.
The easier it is to defend yourself. Yeah, I get it. Or you weren't going to say that, but I know what you're going to say anyway, but whatever.
Is to act upon violent thoughts.
Okay, but whenever the case that is someone wants to kill a bunch of people, if you have a gun, you a peaceful, innocent person have a gun, you can defend against that not so peaceful, guilty person with a gun.
And this doesn't even get into the conversation about gun violence generally. Mass shootings make up a tiny percentage of gun violence, as in like 1% or less.
And yet you want to ban them as if mass shootings are a total freaking tragedy. I mean, they are a total freaking tragedy, but you want to ban guns as a whole, or at least a lot of them, as if mass shootings are a huge part of the crime committed with guns or violent crime in general. You just said mass shootings barely happen, yet you want to ban guns as if mass shootings are super de-duper common. Go figure.
Suicides actually account for the majority of US gun deaths at around 54%.
Exactly what I was saying, so what the fuck is gun control gonna do about that? It's like, okay, most of the gun deaths aren't gun murders, they're gun suicides. Yeah, I don't see how gun control, I mean, law-abiding citizens are peaceful people, is gonna prevent gun deaths, gun murders, what have you. Most gun deaths are suicides, and yet gun control nuts want to make them out like they're all homicides, all murders. It doesn't make any sense.
To be honest, while mass shootings get a lot more media coverage and have higher public interest, I probably should have made this video about gun violence and suicide because the United States has an embarrassingly high rate of suicide by gun. It's an epidemic. In any case, it's been the trend among conservative politicians and media to distract from issues around guns and right-wing ideology, in part because they implicate the kinds of policies and rhetoric that modern conservatism tends to promote.
Great, he's an anti-righty, pro-lefty, I guess. I mean, government is shit in general, and both sides have passed gun control. But yeah, let's act like it's just the either right that's making everyone die due to guns, even though the left has passed far more gun control, and both sides have passed gun control. And gun control doesn't work, yeah, let's just blame the fucking right, because they're right. They're the right, not that they're right as in correct, but as in they're the right as in the name. Yeah.
This includes gun ownership, anti-government sentiments, devaluation.
Dude, the government sucks. Why wouldn't anyone have anti-government sentiment unless they're like a status that really supports the system as a whole? I mean, even most status have gripes with their government. They just want a different government. They just want a different set of men and women in suits to rule over everyone's lives. But even most status have the sense to know at least this government is bullshit and needs to change somehow. Just that anarchists take that like a step way further and acknowledge that government as a whole is bad and we need to get rid of it, period.
Valuing racial minorities or LGBTQ plus members, and prioritizing Christian dogma.
Great. If I had a nickel for every time Christianity was blamed for shit, I'd be a billionaire, trillionaire. You know, I wouldn't have to work anymore. Yeah, you know, I'm not a Christian. I'm an a-religious atheist, but I'm not just gonna go using religion as a scapegoat for stupid-ass policies the state does. Okay, it's not people believe in God or Christian God, or that's not the problem. And a lot of Christians abhor mass shootings, and some have even defended against mass shootings. So could people just drop the scapegoat with that, oh, nasty Christianity or religion as a whole? Because that's not the damn problem. I'm sorry, it's not.
So rather than engaging in honest self-reflection, we end up pointing our fingers and say, look at the weird bad people. Whatever can we do?
That's what you're doing, man. You're going at the weird bad people like, oh, the right, the conservatives, the Christians, gun owners. That's what you're doing, dude. Sounds like projection.
Can't fix crazy. Thoughts and prayers.
Oh, wow. The old mock the thoughts and prayers argument. Even though people are showing what they can do, at least care, at least in, their mind or heart or soul or words towards people, and you want to mock that. There's not much you can do with a mass shooting. You can only, try to prevent it, and try to save as many people as possible from the current one. And sometimes thoughts and prayers is all you can pretty much do at the moment in terms of, intrinsic compassion or whatever, holistic compassion. But you guys want to mock that because, oh, it's not enough. It's not gun control. That's pretty shitty of you to do so. These are people that genuinely are trying to care, and you just want to mock that. So, yeah, that's pretty fucking stupid.
There's no way to prevent this, says only nation where this regularly happens.
Dude, you just pulled up the fucking Onion. The Onion is a joke news website and paper. I repeat, The Onion is a joke. It's not real. It's not true. It's a parody of media. The Onion, it's not CNN. It's not NBC or CBS or ABC or fucking Fox News. It's a parody. It's a joke. Wow, imagine bringing up a parody news source as a news source. Like my fucking god.
There are 19 sets of parents who are never going to get to kiss their child goodnight again.
Is this the moment to reform gun laws?
It's easy to go to politics.
Banning those weapons that were used in attacks like these.
I'm certain that politics will wave into everything, but right now I'm not focused on the politics of the situation. I'm focused on the families.
With so much violence.
Gee, maybe it's actually kind of normal to want to focus on the families rather than any political campaign or policy you can pass them on. Maybe they're actually being more sensitive than you guys are. And these are Republicans we're talking about. I don't agree with the Republicans either. And yet a lot of them seem to be showing far more compassion than you lefties or ultra statists or whatever, gun control states, whatever. I mean, and you act like you're so in the right when you're not.
Violence taking place at the hands of those with severe mental illness. The answer to mass shootings is not fewer guns, but it's more institutional mental health in this country.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are all domestic terrorists.
But we can do something. There are reasonable steps that we can take as a country to significantly reduce the number of mass shootings. These include, for example, stricter gun laws in order to...
Oh yeah, because stricter gun laws is going to stop someone from going to the black market to get a gun. It's going to stop them from making a straw purchase to get a gun. It's going to stop them from making their own gun. It's going to stop them from illegally buying a gun from like a corrupt police officer or a soldier, which has happened before. It's going to stop them from even stealing the guns. Yeah, the gun laws are going to really help. No, they ain't. And they haven't.
Restrict access to firearms. Evidence shows that more thorough background checks, waiting periods, and gun buyback programs are effective in reducing rates of gun violence, including...
What evidence shows that, making someone wait to buy a gun or having more thorough background checks to buy a gun or... Wait, what was it?
Stricter gun laws in order to restrict access to firearms. Evidence shows that more thorough background checks, waiting periods, and gun buyback programs are effective.
Okay, well, yeah, what evidence is there to do that? Only willing people who aren't criminals turn them in to the fucking gun buybacks. It's not criminals turning their gun in. It's not robbers or rapists or murderers turning in their guns to some gun buyback program. They want to keep their guns so they can keep doing the crime. And wait periods, well, fuck that. A person can just get a gun by illegal means if they don't want to wait for the waiting periods. Or if they're still dead set on doing their shooting, they're going to wait all the time they need to in the world to get that gun to go in that mass shooting. Background checks, like I already stated, we already have those. They're already universal. They don't help.
In reducing rates of gun violence, including mass shootings. There are other common sense gun laws that might also.
Yeah, common sense gun laws. Cause a gun law is good if it's common sense. You know, the two magic words to try and legitimize a failed, tired old government policy is common sense. Yeah, no. Slapping a nice sticker label on gun control doesn't make it any more legitimate.
Help, including reinstating the assault weapons ban.
Oh, jeez.
Banning high-capacity magazines or bump stocks.
Uh-huh.
Requiring training, insurance, and registration of firearms.
I don't want to have to pay insurance for a gun. Yeah, no, okay. I mean, that's just more money it costs to buy a gun in addition to the taxes on it. And Governor Newsom of California passed a tax on guns, so yeah. I mean, it makes sense to train to own a gun, but making a mandate, it's not going to be very smooth. Like, the government could get extra picky with the training and end up making less people own guns. I mean, come on.
Or raising the federal age limit for buying firearms.
Once again, another law, another bypass that criminals can do all to fine since we're all criminals.
When it comes to extremism, evidence shows that informal interventions by family and friends are one of the most effective ways to interrupt violent radicalization.
So why don't you focus on that rather than the damn inanimate objects?
Of course, that puts a lot of emphasis and responsibility on individuals, but it's
which is kind of what people have to do anyway?
important to know where we hold power to make a difference. On a larger scale, de-radicalization will require deconstructing and delegitimizing extremist far-right propaganda, both
Okay, well what about far-left propaganda too? Is that not worth deconstructing?
Online and elsewhere. Social media companies have, thus far, evaded government oversight, and
Oh yeah, of course, because what we need is more government oversight over what we can say, think, express. Yeah, there's no way that can totally go wrong into censorship and not really being able to say anything. I mean, come on.
Also taking responsibility for providing a platform for hateful and extremist views.
My goodness. People have a right to say what they want. It's when it goes into action that you have to stop them. If some guy wants to just think this group of people can be killed or should be killed is all, then that's not much of a problem compared to if he actually does it. I mean, you can't just, put a binder clip on people's lips, for safety or whatever. It's not right, it's not going to work, blah, blah, blah. A lot of extremists have their minds made up, censoring them isn't gonna work.
If companies had more of an incentive to moderate their content, that might lead to fewer individuals being exposed to hate speech and radical ideology.
Yeah, just more buzzwords to stigmatize either normal communication or try to legitimize government policy.
There are also things that we know won't work. Arming teachers or adding police to schools will only increase the likelihood of gun violence in schools.
Why? How does allowing teachers to be armed, like the campus police officers are armed, to be able to fight school shooters, how would that not stop mass shootings or reduce severity? I mean, armed teachers can serve as good backup in case the armed police fail. Like if the armed school resource officer fails, you can have the teachers as backup. There are some studies I put in the description that show, hey, having armed teachers actually does shit as opposed to just disarming everyone.
And there have already been school shootings where all the right things were in place, like locked doors, school resource officers, and a quick and effective response by police.
Yeah, and like I said, the teachers can serve as good backup for the school resource officers, the armed school resource officers.
And lots of people still died. Additionally,
well, yeah, because only the cops are armed and the teachers aren't, and it takes when seconds count, the police are minutes away. Yeah.
Things like harsh criminal sentences don't really do much to stop mass shooters, since most of them are suicidal and they don't plan to live past the event.
Okay, that I agree with. Punishment doesn't deter crime, deadly force does. With a gun, which you don't want people to be able to own so easily.
What we really need to do is invest in resources and social services that can improve the lives and well-being of Americans. We need a more comprehensive social safety net so people can support themselves and their families without entering into a crisis every time that they lose their job or become involved in the legal system. We need to invest in our schools to help our kids thrive, give them access to mental health services. We need to ensure that people can afford health care. If we can create a society where people's basic needs are met and where they feel like they're part of a community and are connected to other people, we go a long way towards eradicating those hateful, angry, scared thoughts that lead to so many mass shootings. Funnily enough, and this may...
Yeah, well, you can't do that with a state, okay? State policy isn't going to get the community to come together more often. State policy is shown to do just the opposite. Like schools, the state invests a lot into schools. Well, schools still suck. The public school system still suck. So why trust the state to invest any better in any better schools? I don't get it. And the state mental health services, don't have a whole lot of faith in that either.
May seem a bit at odds with the point of this video. I think that increasing funding for mental health care might have a beneficial effect. Our country's mental health infrastructure is embarrassingly bad due to the dismantling of psychiatric hospitals and the underfunding of community-based services.
It still seems like there are mental health facilities people are sent to if they're really crazy and harm other people or themselves, so I don't get this whole... They dismantled psychiatric places or they closed all the asylums. I don't understand that talk.
I actually talked about both of those things at length in a video about asylums. You can click on the link up there if you want to watch that. Mental illness may not be the motive or cause of most mass shootings, but we do see that most mass shooters experience a life crisis that affects their mental health. If mental health services were better integrated into our communities and were more accessible, that could reduce the stigma of seeking out help. And in turn, it could improve mental health for everyone, not just the seriously mentally ill.
I do think there needs to be some structure in society, some restructuring of society in which people raise people to be better human beings and, make a less hostile society. And that could involve mental health, but I don't think the government's the way to go about it. Government's already screwed up enough. We don't need them to screw up more stuff. The public school system itself ain't doing anyone any favors, so fuck that. Get rid of that at least. That's a hostile environment. Not gonna make anyone any less crazy.
That we all understand the importance of mental health and the role that it plays in living a satisfying and fulfilled life. And if you, watching this video, are personally trying to improve your own mental health, then I'd recommend exercising your mind and enhancing your cognitive skills with Brilliant.org. Yeah, it's a bad segue, but hear me out. I wouldn't have been able to do this video justice if I didn't understand statistics. Numbers can easily fool you, and I didn't realize how often I was getting tricked by exciting headlines in the news until I took a stats class in college. But if you've never taken stats, I think you should check out their
let's just skip this.
Statistics, and it's a great in the description. The first 200 of you, and thank you to Brilliant for supporting creators like me so that I can make videos like these. So let me repeat again. Mental illness is not a motive for someone to commit a mass shooting. It's pretty clear that the person who pulls the trigger probably isn't living a fulfilled life. But remember that just because we don't understand an evil act doesn't mean that that person is mentally ill.
True.
Or even if they are, that doesn't mean that every action is connected to that diagnosis. Rather than using mental illness as an easy excuse, let's really encourage changes that'll have a substantial impact. For example, I strongly urge you to contact your legislators to ask them to enact common sense gun laws.
They already are trying to do that without anyone really contacting them. We don't need more gun control.
And I look forward to continuing the conversation in the comments below. I really want to hear from you. What do you think? What's going on? What can we do? Thanks so much for watching. And until next time, I'm Micah. Think about it.
I mean, on a base level, the most readily available solution is to arm people up so they can defend themselves against mass shooters, whatever their intention, whatever their weapon, whatever. Another way is to raise society better, like start by getting rid of the public school system, which raises society very poorly. And let people go to private schools or homeschool or whatever else school where they can be treated right and not be bullied day after day, which may lead to a mass shooting or a school shooting or whatever. School isn't the place to go to learn how to be a better human being. I'm sorry, public school is not. I meant public school, but yeah, public school is not the place to become better. It's just so toxic. It's not helping society, it's hurting it. I think conflict resolution needs to be more of a common thing taught in society, whether it be by school or by parents or some program, something like that. Or gun control, sheesh, that ain't gonna do shit. It doesn't. So, yeah.